We play and call it work.
Why do I love the Loyalists? This is why I love the Loyalists. I think what draws me to really liking the Loyalists is that 30k is something that's a little bit near and dear to me. It's probably one of my favorite stories when it comes to the whole 40k Warhammer universe. So with Warhammer 30k, I think the Loyalists have some of the most interesting flaws. This is a time where Marines had a lot more personality, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of the Loyalist legions really kind of exemplify some of the cool things about what it means to be a Space Marine. After this video, remember to check out the links below. It'll take you to the MiniWarGaming Vault, where you're going to get to check out these legions being played against some good old traitors. What we have on the table here is the entire studio collection of Loyalists, as well as my small collection of Imperial Fists. This totals up to be 22,022 points. Start off with what I believe is the largest portion of the army here, and that's the Salamanders, where we have a little over 7,300 points. Starting off here, we have 60 Marines, some Sergeants mixed in, basically a little bit of variety when it comes to if you want to take tactical squads, veteran tactical squads, whatever you might be interested in. Of course, the Salamanders love their flamers, so we have 20 Marines armed with flamers. Keeping with the fire theme, we also have 10 Marines armed with meltas, and of course able to run them either as support squads or add them to veteran tacticals. You get some flexibility that's fun in 30k. Good old Martian death rays, we've got 10 heavy Volkite Marines. The specialists for the Salamanders, we have 10 Pyroclasts, 15 Terminators total. We've got 5 just Cataphractii with Lightning Claws, and then we also have 10 of the Fire Drakes, probably some of the scariest Terminators in 30k. Over to Dreadknots now. We've got Cassius Dracos Reborn. Definitely kind of spooky to see him on the tabletop. We've also got a Standard Contemptor, a Daredeo, and a Leviathan. Characters, we got a little mix here. There's a couple of apothecaries, as well as a praetor, a chaplain, and 2 that we're typically seeing on the tabletop as praetors. A decent amount of armor here. We've got a predator, a vindicator, as well as 4 rhinos. The heavier armor, we have a super heavy glaive. Something you don't usually see with Marines in 40k is the super heavy tanks, as well as a Spartan, a Land Raider, and a Sicaran Venator. Flyer support here, we got a Dreadclaw drop pod, we have a Cestus assault ram, as well as a Storm Eagle. Salamanders wouldn't be Salamanders without the big man himself, Vulcan. Not one of my favorite Primarchs, but definitely somebody that I respect when I see him across from me on the battlefield. Next up is the Raven Guard collection, something I don't think we've seen a ton of on the tabletop, because we picked it up fairly recently. We have 5,700 points approximately of Raven Guard. Looking at the loadouts here, we have about 20 regular tactical Marines. Special weapons here. This army was actually done up by Vito. This was his personal army when he was playing a little bit more 30k. We got 20 meltas because he's a little bit melta crazy. Of course, wouldn't be Raven Guard without some quick movers, so we have 40 Assault Marines. And of course, with the Assassin theme, we have 20 Seekers. Moving over to some of the Raven Guard specialist troops here, we have 20 Dark Talons. And then we have 20 of the Mordathan. They're kind of assassin sniper type unit. 6 Rapier quad batteries here for taking care of vehicles. Character options, we have your standard apothecaries here, as well as 2 that we would use either as a praetor on foot. I think you use them as Elvarex Mon at some times, and then we have a jump character as well. Not a ton of vehicles, which makes sense for the Raven Guard. We only have the 1 Rhino and then a Javelin Speeder. Javelin's kind of a favorite of mine because it harkens back to the good old deodorant speeders from way back in the day. There is a little bit of medium armor here. We've got 3 Predators as well as a Sicaran battle tank. Definitely need to get the troops boots on the ground up the board as quick as you can, so 5 drop pods to help up with that. And then for some air support, we have a Lightning Primaris Strike Fighter. And of course, here is Corax, another one of the Primarchs who, well, he might not be one of my favorites in the lore, definitely have a lot of respect. He is such an annoying character to try to keep pinned down the battlefield. He can do quite a bit of damage. There's not much you can do about it. Next here, we've got a couple of the smaller collections. This is actually my personal collection of Imperial Fists. Still need to add quite a bit to it, but we're just about 2,000 points on the board here. I have my 20 veteran tactical marines. Imperial Fists are good with the bolters with a +1 to hit, so definitely like, you know, just standard bolter troops. Taking care of heavy weapons, I have got a heavy support squad with missile launchers. We have 5 Cataphractii Terminators. Nothing crazy here. The Imperial Fists are one of the few legions with access to the teleportation of Terminators, so kind of handy to have them, be able to get them on the battlefield where you need them to be. I have got 5 Sword Brethren that I basically made out of the old Black Templar kit that I had kicking around. Of course, with Kelth, you're going to have a Contemptor kicking around. I've also got 3 of the quad mortars and then a couple of rhinos to get those veteran tacticals where I need them to be. Not many character options I have right now, so I've got one of the old Emperor's Children, or Emperor's Champion models rather, that I've used as everything from a Traitor to a Primus Medicae to everything in between, and then good old Sigismund. And then of course we've got Dorn himself, by far my favorite Primarch, and that is one that Lee converted up for me. I've always had the vision that he'd be kind of, you know, a grumpy old man with mutton chops, so there he is. One of these smaller studio collections here. These are actually Rob's old iron hands, or iron hands as he would say. We have just shy of 2,000 points. Since this is pretty much Kelth type stuff, we have 36 basic Marines with some Sergeants mixed in. We have a collection of a couple different kinds of special and heavy weapons. So we've got 6 Plasma, 6 Melta, 6 Missile, 6 Heavy Bolters. Some more elite support here. We've got 10 Cataphractii Terminators. Of course, with double Kelth, you're going to have double Contemptor, and then some characters. You've got a Chaplain as well as a Cataphractii Terminator character. Last but not least is the Space Wolves, just a little over 1,500 points, almost 1,600 here. And this is majority just a Prospero box with some vehicles added. So we're looking at 30 tactical Marines here. For the special weapons, we got 5 Melta, 5 Plasma. Vehicles, we've got one of the Contemptors with a little bit of conversion work done to it, as well as 3 Rhinos and a Predator with a heavy conversion beamer. Then good old Leman Russ is there leading them. Definitely just a super cool model that we wanted to pick up and have in the collection. Then we've got the Custodes, the personal guard of the Emperor up front here, a little over 3,300 points worth. Some of this stuff was quirks before that he was working on. He had a little bit of Custodes collection going on. So we've got 20 of the Sentinel Guard and 20 of the Custodian Guard. We also have 5 of the Sagittarium Guard. We have the Contemptor Galatus with the big old sword and board. Vehicles, we have 3 of the Palace Grav tanks as well as a Coronis Grav carrier. Then leading all of this, we do have a shield captain. I think if I'm right, that's Ixion Hale. I can't remember that well. Fitting in with the Loyalists, not really worthy kind of talking about being a force unto themselves, but we do have some Sisters of Silence. And of course, we had to go grab Loken off Dave's shelf. And that is what we have for the Loyalist collection here at the studio, as well as my Imperial Fists. For those not super familiar with 30k compared to 40k, 30k is using a rule system that, for all intents and purposes, is the 7th edition rules. But for me, 7th edition wasn't my favorite edition of 40k, but it works for Horus Heresy. So you've got the 18 different legions, and for the most part, they all have access to the same unit. So there's some inherent balance when it comes to building your lists, but there's enough unique kind of flavors to each of them that they have their own unique units, their own unique characters, a couple special rules, but they've done a really good job with the way they do special rules for the different legions, in that you get both a benefit and kind of a negative to go along with it. And if you want to play a very specific type of list, they give you access to the Rights of War, which are unlocked by certain characters, and they allow you to gain some special rules, again, both positive and negative, and they give you some different army composition rules. So I find with 30k, it's almost everybody attaches to their legions, and they're kind of a big fan of their own specific legion, where I find 40k players might be willing to jump from army to army a little bit more. Most of your 30k guys are pretty hardcore fans of whatever legion they're collecting. So it almost feels like football players in that respect. Like everybody's got their team and everybody's got their legions that they just dislike, that they want to see get the, you know, snot beat out of them on the battlefield. So as far as looking at Loyalists versus Traitor, I think with the Loyalists, it's tough. The Horus Heresy is by far my favorite, like I said, my favorite storyline when it comes to anything Warhammer related. And I think the Loyalists, even though I'm probably better known for playing Traitors, the Loyalists are definitely the side that I would be rooting for out of the two. I'm definitely more of an Imperium player than I am a Chaos player when it comes to when I got into the game system. I think the Imperium's kind of cool and what the Imperium represents, and then you have these guys being kind of the exemplars of that. When it comes to the Loyalists, I think my favorite are definitely the Fists in both the lore and the play style. They're a very straightforward legion with how they are on the table and how they are in the lore. Definitely very super loyal to the Emperor. They were chosen to come back to Terra to, you know, fortify the Imperial Palace. And that's before the Horus Heresy kicked off and all that. I think some of the things I like is if you look at Dorn as a Primarch, he's by far my favorite. You know, kind of super stoic. He's here to do his job. Like the rest of the Primarchs, you've got a lot of the human flaws that are evident in him, and one of them is that he doesn't seem especially full of pride. Like he's not so full of himself like the other Primarchs are. And I think the Fists are kind of the same way. You know, they're definitely still, you know, proud of being the Imperial Fists, and they're good at what they're good at, but they're not ones to really kind of boast or compare themselves to others. And on the tabletop, I think the rules overall, if you look at them, the main thing is that the +1 to hit with bolters, it summarizes Space Marines. They've taken the primary armament of the Space Marine and just kind of perfected it in every way that they can. So the tactics are just be good at what we're already good at doing. There's something that kind of speaks to me about that, and I really do enjoy playing them. As well as they play a little bit more on the defensive, so I find you can play a little bit more reactive with them, which is something I enjoy. Looking at some of my favorite models when it comes to the Loyalists, of course, I mean, the Primarch models are always amazing. Like I mentioned earlier, Dorn, I think, is probably my favorite Primarch model. The pose just kind of really captures the essence of him really well. Looking at some of the other models that you have available on the line, I think Raven Guard have probably got some of the most handsome looking models in the Mordathan and the Dark Talons. They've done a fantastic job on that, but all of the different unique units for the different legions look fantastic when you get them on the board. Some of the armies that I haven't seen very often is White Scars. That's one where we haven't had any guests bring in a White Scars army, and I've never actually seen a Horus Heresy White Scars army in person. That was another one I'd strongly considered collecting at the beginning until I noticed that the jet bikes aren't the cheapest thing to acquire, and if I wanted to scoop them all up, I don't think I could have gotten a squad of 5 for what I started my Night Lords for. But that would be one, you know, if I was to win the lottery and could start another Horus Heresy army, I think it would be White Scars, without question. If money wasn't an option, I would definitely have a White Scars army. So to conclude, I know I sound like a broken record saying it both in this video as well as other videos. 30k is by far my favorite game system and setting when it comes to Warhammer, and I think the reason why, again, I like it so much is that if you read about it, the building of the Imperium, this is the Imperium at its height, and these are the ones trying to defend the Imperium and what the Great Crusade was able to do. Very kind of big epic story, and that's why I love the 30k Loyalists. So that's why I love the 30k Loyalists. So leave some comments in the comment section below. Let me know who your favorite Legion is when it comes to the Loyalists. And if you're a filthy traitor, well, I guess you're allowed to comment, but we are coming for you. You can also check out the links below to see some games in the MiniWarGaming vault. Some good old 30k Loyalist versus Traitor. If you're not a vault member, you can click on the link below anyways. It'll take you to a 7-day free trial where you're going to get to check out these games as well as everything else we have in the vault. Quite a bit of content there, so check it out. Thanks for tuning in. Keep being awesome, and as always, happy wargaming.